Yo, what's going on guys? KiWi here. Welcome back to the channel. In my last video, I hinted that I would be covering how to play D.Va against every tank in the game. Today, I'm finally going to be talking about the other tanks and how to play D.Va against them, some things to keep in mind, and how to completely dominate the tank role in this meta as D.Va. For each tank, I'm going to give you some general tips, some pros, and some cons, so you can outperform your enemy tank no matter who they are. After talking about a tank, I'll give them a rating on a counter scale between 1 and 10. 1 being D.Va counters them really hard, play D.Va against this hero, and if you're not, you're trolling. And 10 being don't play D.Va against this hero, and if you are, you're trolling. Before we get into the video, I want to let you guys know that I stream on Saturdays and Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern time on Twitch. Come say what's up, ask any questions you have to me about D.Va or anything, and I'll do my best to answer. Alright guys, let's get into it. Alright, starting off with the monkey himself. Scientist. Winston is a relatively favorable matchup for D.Va. One of the things that makes fighting Winston good for D.Va is that he has a pretty big hitbox that D.Va's high burst damage can just abuse. Another thing that makes fighting Winston easy for D.Va is that his leap is really easy to shut down. Once you notice him jump, you can use your boosters to follow him, even collide with him midair to ruin the trajectory of his jump, messing up his landing. You can also try to boop him away from your supports if he jumps on them. There are some things that makes Winston a bit annoying for D.Va, but nothing too bad. Like his primary fire can't be eaten by D.Va's defense matrix. His secondary fire can't either, and obviously you can't eat his bubble or his melee. Even when he's ulting, you can't eat his melee. All of these attacks don't do much damage to begin with, but it's just something to note. Winston's bubble also blocks D.Va's self-destruct. He can bubble it and jump away, leading the bomb to explode inside of the bubble, getting no value. To counter this, you kind of want to make sure you either break the bubble before throwing your ult, or making sure it has just been broken, or it's placed in such a bad spot that you're confident it'll get value out of throwing your ult. As long as you're following him when he jumps, using your primary fire, micro missiles, and meleeing him, you'll be able to shred him and his bubble down without too much trouble. I would rate Winston a 2 out of 10 on the counter scale. D.Va's able to abuse Winston too hard for you not to play her against him. Junker Queen has gotten a little bit better since she was released, but she is still really nothing to worry about as D.Va. You can eat her primary fire and her knife, and without her knife to pull her enemies closer, she is quite useless. Junker Queen has little range, so if you can keep your distance from her, she won't be able to do much. If you prevent her from getting close to your team by boosting her back, you can fire at her and chunk her down over time. Junker Queen relies a lot on her lifesteal to survive, and without being able to melee, use her axe, or her right click, she won't be able to lifesteal at all. And if she ults into your team, you can burst her down, but make sure to see if there's anyone that is purple from your ult. This means that they are anti-healed, just like Ana's grenade. You could use your defense matrix on teammates who are purple to make sure they don't take any more damage until they can get healed again and the status effect gets off them. Junker Queen's hitbox is quite slim and she can move pretty fast, so tracking her can be difficult, but obviously not impossible. I would rate Junker Queen at a 3 out of 10 on the counter scale. She's no match against D.Va. The anti-heal effect is the only thing I see that makes things annoying for her. Next up, we got the hamster, and in all honesty, you guys are kind of the same. You're both little rats piloting a mech. Wrecking Ball is very mobile, which means that you have to be able to track him when he's going at Mach 20 speed around a point in circles. He has a very big hitbox as well, which means doing damage to it is quite easy, but if he activates his shields, he can get a lot of health that doesn't charge up your ult at all, so be wary of that. When Wrecking Ball is spinning around the point, you can stop his momentum, but you also get booped yourself. This will cause him to have to reignite his fire, which means that he goes at his maximum speed, and he will have to regain his momentum. You both kind of cancel each other out, making movement difficult and unpredictable. His mines are hard to dodge as D.Va, and you can't eat them, since you have a big hitbox and you're bound to run into them if he decides to ult on the point. But you can use your micro missiles and your primary fire to shoot them down pretty easily. Since your fusion cannons are like shotguns, the pellets spread, hitting multiple mines at once. If you notice Wrecking Ball grappling and swinging into the air and he seems like he's about to slam down onto your supports, you can try to boost into him while he's in the air in his pile driver animation. This will cause him to be booped, hopefully missing your supports. If he hits them and airbornes them, however, you can use your defense matrix to eat his primary fire, since most Wrecking Ball players instantly shoot the people they knock up. You should also get into the habit of learning how fast he hits the ground when he pile drives, flicking your mouse or thumbstick down to instantly track him when he hits the ground. He doesn't really do too much damage to D.Va since your defense matrix can eat most of the mag of his primary fire, so I would rate Wrecking Ball a 4 out of 10 on the counter scale. D.Va and Wrecking Ball are one and the same almost, but D.Va still outperforms him in most, if not all, situations. Doomfist has gotten better over the past few patches, but it's still kind of hard to play. However, a good Doomfist is actually pretty challenging to play against as D.Va. All of his abilities can't be eaten by D.Va's defense matrix, and you also want to be wary of when he uses his block ability. Since D.Va does a lot of damage in a short amount of time, accidentally charging up his block ability happens more than you may think. You just want to be mindful of when he uses this and when you should be able to burst him down. Keep an eye out for when he is jumping on your supports or any susceptible teammates. You can still displace him with your own boosters, just try to make him have the hardest time moving around. Like most of the other tanks I have mentioned so far, you can try to collide mid-air with Doomfist and mess up his movement tremendously. Doomfist can use his punch to stop the trajectory of your self-destruct, so make sure you don't throw it in a straight line or on the ground if the enemy team has to Doomfist. I'm putting Doomfist at a 4 out of 10 on the counter scale, but if you're facing a good Doom, don't underestimate his power against you. So next up, we got the horse girl, Orisa. Orisa is honestly really annoying to play against as pretty much any tank. She has a lot of stuns and boops and damage reduction abilities. You can, however, farm Orisa for your ult. She's usually pretty susceptible when you notice she has no abilities to use. Use this time to dive her, boost on her, use your normal burst combo on her to do as much damage as possible. Why is that so fucking hard to say? To do as much damage as possible before she gets these abilities back up again. You can eat her javelin with your defense matrix, meaning you can prevent her from stunning and killing your squishy teammates. If you can't eat the javelin, you can put your defense matrix on the ally that got pushed into the wall to make sure they don't take any more damage. Another thing to look out for is when Orisa is using her spinning javelin into your entire team and you think or know she has her ult. You can boost out of the range of the ultimate and use your defense matrix on your teammates stuck in the ultimate. You won't eat the damage she does with it, but you will eat the other incoming damage from Orisa's team. Orisa's javelin spin boops you backwards and overrides your boosters, so when trying to boost towards her, she can easily use this ability to prevent you from moving forward, which is pretty annoying. If she times her javelin well though, she can stun lock you pretty hard, so pay attention to when she uses it. She can also use her javelin to stop your ultimate if you throw it. I would rate Orisa at like a 5 out of 10 on the counter scale. She is pretty annoying to play against, but it's not a terrible matchup. Roadhog is honestly just a big bully. Roadhog is similar to Doomfist. Depending on if the Roadhog player knows how to play against D.Va well, he can either give you a run for your money or feed your ult and get no value out of playing Roadhog. A good Roadhog will almost always try to hook you because he knows of the tip I'm about to share. I have mentioned this in a video before. If Roadhog hooks your teammate, you are able to use your defense matrix to eat his primary fire after hooking, saving your teammate from the mass amount of damage he will do. If you know how to properly bait your team and are confident that you're planning to eat every single time Roadhog hooks your teammate, you won't be able to do anything against you. If you don't have defense matrix when your teammate gets hooked for any reason, boosting into him or placing yourself in the middle of your teammate and him can potentially save them. If he knows this is what you're trying to do, he will almost always go to hook you, and you can't use your defense matrix when you get hooked. He does a shit ton of damage and can shred through you pretty easily. He can also use his vape to survive your self-destruct from point blank range. His hook can displace your self-destruct, and I have some clips somewhere of an enemy Roadhog hooking my bomb into his whole team. I've also done this. It's quite fun, but I mean, your teammates won't think so. It makes for a funny clip. Anyways, yeah, another thing to be wary of is Roadhog's ultimate. You can't eat the entire thing, and if your defense matrix runs out when you're close to him, he shreds your mech pretty easily. Since he shoots his ult whenever he wants now, you can time your defense matrix and put it down when he stops shooting and back up again when he starts again. With Roadhog, it's honestly all a mental game. You can't counter him overall, but play by play. Think of it as a situational countering. The more aware you are of how the enemy Roadhog plays, the more you would be able to counter him. I would rate Roadhog at like a 6 out of 10 on the counter scale. Countering him constantly is very situational, and he does so much damage, it will be hard to confidently say that you counter Roadhog completely. Just like Roadhog, countering Ramattra is going to be play-by-play and situational. Overall, D.Va's kit does not counter Ramattra, and he can be annoying to play D.Va into if he knows what he's doing. His Nemesis form counters you completely, as you can't use your defense matrix on his punches, and his block makes it really hard to do any damage to him at all. His ult also can't be eaten by defense matrix, and since D.Va is so big, he can easily keep his ult attached to you, allowing him to get the full seconds out of the ultimate. When playing against Ramattra, you can burst down his shield pretty easily, however, and you can also just fly through it since he can't redeploy it for another few seconds. Just make sure your supports can heal you if you dive through his shield, otherwise just don't do it at all. D.Va is good at diving and bursting squishy characters, and Ramattra is not a squishy character at all. She can, however, be a great tank to go into Ramattra because she can boop him back using her boosters while he is ulting or in Nemesis form. You can easily distract him since chances are he will want to just keep hitting you until his Nemesis form runs out, and you can use this time to burst him down. Ramattra also has no shield during his Nemesis form, so you can use this time to throw your bomb. If you really can't handle going against a good Ramattra, I don't don't blame you. Just try to look for when he has his Nemesis farm on cooldown and use his time to try to kill him. My biggest tip as D.Va against Ramattra is to be a distraction for your team to safely heal you and deal damage to him. I would rate him at like a 7 out of 10 on the counter scale. He is pretty hard to go D.Va into, but there is still hope if you play your cards right. Alright, big German guy with a big shield and hammer versus a small Korean girl. I'll let that speak for itself. Rein is kind of a bitch to play against this D.Va. His shield makes your burst damage kind of difficult. The fact that you're slowed when shooting also makes trying to walk up to him difficult. His shield also blocks your self-destruct and he can charge into it, displace it, cancel his charge, and put up his shield again to save himself. Some Reinhardt players have the definition of absolute Chad energy, however, so some will charge your ult off the map following it because, as Reinhardt says, live with honor, die with glory. I can't do it as good as he does. Anyways, D.Va doesn't have a shield, so she is unable to block Rein's shatter. You can't eat his primary fire since it's just a melee. You can't eat his charge, obviously, but you can displace him. Where D.Va shines against Reinhardt is when he throws his fire strikes. These you can eat, and they're pretty easy to see and read. Learning how to position yourself as D.Va against a Reinhardt is very important. If you notice the enemy Rein has ult, you can either position yourself so you aren't knocked down by it, or you can plan on boosting up into the air as soon as you get the feeling he's about to shatter. If you have good enough reaction time too, you can do it as soon as you see the animation start or hear the first part of his voice line when ulting. Make sure to break his shield when trying to use self-destruct or position it above him. Landing your ultimate on a Rein's head is rare but also really funny. It can also lead to a big bomb. Try to angle your bomb up into the sky only a bit above the top of his shield, making him have the most awkward time trying to shield it off. Also, if you notice Rein charging in, you can boost in front of him and tank it if you notice another one of your teammates will get hit and killed by it. If you have your ult after he charges in, you can throw it into the back lines, and since he isn't with his team, they have no protection, leading to a valuable self-destruct. Just make sure you aren't too close to him. He will two-shot you with his hammer as mini D.Va. Another thing to keep in mind is if Rein charges you off the map or into a pit, you can boost back onto the map. I would rate Rein a 7 out of 10 on the counter scale for D.Va. Most situations put Rein on top, and shields are D.Va's worst enemies, but there are still ways you can get value out of playing D.Va into him. Guys, do you hear that? What is that melody? Honestly, I'm just like Sigma. The voices are all I hear. Yo, my bad guys, future KiWi here. I'm very aware that that joke was very cringe and also very outdated. It's been like about a year since that joke was funny, so yeah, I'm sorry you had to experience that. Anyways, Sigma is one of D.Va's hardest counters. You are only able to eat his primary fire, but that's about it. Like I said, shields are D.Va's worst enemies, and Sigma is able to redeploy his shield at will. It's a bit harder for Sigma to block self-destruct, but it's still possible. Sigma's rock goes straight through D.Va's defense matrix, which will stun her and knock her down. This is really fucking annoying, honestly. Sigma is able to stop D.Va's burst damage with his black hole. Feeding his black hole will just make him harder to kill. His ultimate is very annoying to deal with. You aren't able to boost out of it. Something you can do, however, is if you see the circle on the floor, try to boost out of it then. If you can't, oh well. If you get pulled up into the sky, you can use your defense matrix to try to eat any of his primary fire balls he throws at you. You can also aim your defense matrix at the teammates also stuck in the air with you to prevent them from getting damage as well. Sigma's ultimate does half of the character's maximum HP, meaning if he somehow gets you below half, once you hit the ground, you will be killed. So make sure you try to keep your teammates from getting damage while in the sky. If Sigma has his black hole out, you can boost into him and melee him. This won't feed his black hole, and you are still able to do damage to him. I would rate Sigma as an 8 out of 10 on the counter scale. He is really annoying to play against this D.Va, and honestly, D.Va can't do much against him. Oh god. The ultimate D.Va counter. Zarya. I hate Zarya. I hate Zarya players. I hate this game. I hate my life. I hate myself. Sorry, the voices came back. Where were we? Oh, sorry. Okay, so playing D.Va into Zarya and not switching is the ultimate power move. You will also be yelled at by your team that you are feeding and you should uninstall the game. Zarya is really easy to charge with D.Va. Trying to burst Zarya is hard enough since she is one of the smallest tanks in the game. As soon as you go to burst her down, she puts her bubble on her and you fully charge her without even meaning to. Since you can't cancel your micro missiles, it's hard to not accidentally do damage to her bubble. Congratulations, you have begun the worst Overwatch experience of your life, trying to play D.Va into a charged Zarya. You can't eat her primary fire and it does so much fucking damage, you will almost never be in mech. The only way to not charge Zarya is looking away from her if you activate your micro missiles while shooting at her. Try to get in the habit of only using this ability when you know for sure she has no more bubbles left. You can burst Zarya down with the help of your team, and sometimes bursting through her bubble if you know she has no healers near her, and if you have your team to back you up is a good idea. That is the only time you should really be breaking her bubble, if you know you able to kill her after. It will catch her by surprise and she will become killable. You can, however, eat her secondary fire and her ultimate. Eating her secondary fire is kind of useless unless she is supercharged. Eating her ultimate is one of the only reasons playing D.Va into Zarya can be viable. Most Zaryas have certain things in common when they're about to use their ultimate. Looking down is a big one. If you notice a Zarya looking down and you know she has ult, use your defense matrix on her. Another thing is if Zarya stops shooting entirely. Sometimes a Zarya player's brain will flatline when she's looking for an ult and she won't be able to do anything else but walk up into your team. If Zarya is getting really aggressive, try your best to read into it and use your defense matrix. Sometimes just holding it in front of her when it's obvious she's going to try to ult can frustrate her and make her use it anyway. Every Zarya player is different, obviously, but make sure throughout the game you keep an eye out for how she is playing and notice any differences in her body language and ability usage to ensure a guaranteed Eaton Graviton Surge. I would rate Zarya a 9 out of 10 on the counter scale. The only reason I'm not giving her a 10 is because her ult can be eaten by D.Va. D.Va is hardly countered by any other tank, and when she is, it's quite easy to adapt and learn how to play against them with some exceptions. Obviously, all this information is subjective. It depends on how good the enemy is at the tank they're playing and how much you practice D.Va against each tank. Perfecting these tips will surely put you on top and make any hero you go against struggle against you. I hope these tips are helpful, and if you have any other questions or concerns, leave a comment, join my Twitch chat when I stream, or join my Discord. Those links will all be in the description. Make sure to subscribe if you aren't already and turn on the bell to get notified every time I upload a video. It's been KiWi, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys later. Peace. Cruising in a whip, bands dance on the dashboard. Wanderlust lips, got stamps on the passport. Act like you know me, I don't think that you do. I think that I'll be alright.